Good morning, my magnificent friends. Welcome back to Tea with Sue. I'm not Tea with Sue. I'm Sue Paulson, your magnificence mentor. Oh, I'm breathing a sigh of relief today. I'm back on Alberta soil, back in my own bed after a week away in beautiful sunny California. It was hot down there. As some of you may know, I flew to the side of my sister who had been gravely ill, and I'm happy to report that she has rallied and is doing much better. So it was a tense time, and if you haven't flown across an international border recently, because our borders here in Canada are just opening up, well, it's a different experience, and it required a great deal of patience, and I was on high alert quite a lot of the time to make sure I was doing the right things at the right time. I had all the right documentation and so on. So it was not as relaxed as I perhaps would have liked, but nevertheless, I got there safe and sound, and I got home safe and sound. So blessings all around. While I was down in California and spent a great deal of time with my young sister, I recognized and began to understand more about this whole process of life that we're involved in. And the topic of resilience just came back full force to me, because here is a young woman who has been in this struggle with a very virulent and rare form of cancer for over 4 years now. And she's still in there swinging. She's still standing. And I'm in awe, because she's been at death's door more than once and didn't go. And I'm going, well, what is it that keeps her hanging on? What is it that keeps her doing what she can to move forward despite tremendous adversity and a body that is not cooperating very well at this point in time? So it really spoke to the power of the human spirit for me, and how over our lifetime, from the day we're born, we start this process of getting accustomed to whatever body that is our house, and getting used to being here on planet Earth, because it's a very different experience from being in spirit form. And so I got mulling over, well, what is it about resilience? So resilience is that ability to recover quickly in the face of some kind of adversity. It could be physical, it could be emotional, it could be mental, it could be a situational kind of thing, whatever's going on in our lives or our world. So it's that ability to come back, and resilience is known for its quicker ability to come back, to recover. So I guess I look at it from 3 different perspectives. We have physical resilience, we have mental resilience, and we have emotional resilience. Now, do they just happen to us? No, I don't believe so. I believe that when we are born into this world, we don't have a lot of emotional or mental resilience, because we don't know anything. We're brand new to the whole process. We obviously must have some physical resilience, because a birthing is not an easy process for a body, and so being born is tough. And yet bodies do amazingly well because that's the way they're built and that's the way they're wired. And even if they don't have the best or the easiest start in life, many of them just bounce back. They find a way to get through. And you look at premature infants, for example, and they're strong, and their ability to just recover can be nothing short of awe-inspiring. So I think we do have some physical resilience when we're born. And of course, as we grow, that physical resilience builds. Well, how does it build? Well, think of muscles. A muscle that starts off, let's say, moderately weak, as you flex it, as it's exercised, you exercise and then you relax, and you exercise and then you relax. Well, it builds strength because it's fulfilling a purpose, and it in the connection to the brain, it builds that muscle memory, so it knows. So the first time you get on a bike to ride it, for example, well, it can be a disaster because our bodies have no idea how to not only coordinate all of our moving parts, but connected with the moving parts of the bicycle and the balance that's required. Oh boy, that's a big deal. And I remember we wanted to teach our son how to ride a bike. I couldn't remember how I learned to get my balance. Somehow it just clicked, thank goodness, because there were some skin knees and, and disasters in the meantime. And so, but it's that repetitive motion, that doing it again and doing it again and doing it again. And then as we make adjustments and correct, oh, okay, my foot needs to be this way on the pedal, and my hands need to be this way on the handlebars, and I need to control it this way, and so on. We gradually figure it out. And then at some point, the brain engages with all the body parts and the parts of the bike, and you're one and you're cycling and off you go. And then you don't ever forget how to ride a bicycle, because especially if you ride one over and over and over again, it just locks right in. So that's how the physical resilience gets built up. And as we're kids, or when we're kids, we don't pay attention to that. We just do what we're doing. We go out, we have fun, we're active. I can remember I used to take the bus to school when we lived on the farm. And it was a long way, and it was a long day. Well, getting out of school, we'd be all wired up with all kinds of energy. And we had a very understanding bus driver. And we said, look, if you let us off here while you make this loop, we'll run as fast as we can and meet you at the other exit. And he was fine. He was all for that. He was fine with that, because it got noisy kids off his bus for a few minutes. And he says, okay, but I won't wait for you. You have to be there. So then we just pelt down the road as fast as we could to make sure that we were there before he was, so he could pick us up, and then we'd carry on home from there. Well, it was such fun, and it was really exhilarating. And I didn't even know that it was building endurance in me. It was building stamina. It was building muscle memory. And so that in later years, if I needed to take off at a moment's notice, just dart somewhere, running after a 2-year-old, for example, well, I didn't forget how. I just did it. So throughout our lives, we can build that muscle memory and that endurance, and then our recovery can be faster because we've learned how to do that. Now, I confess that over the years, my recovery ability physically isn't quite as fast as it used to be. I used to be able to stay up all night and work the next day, and I'd be a little tired, but the next night I'd get a good sleep and I'd be fine. Well, if if I did that now, I'd probably need to sleep for 3 days before I really recovered. So having said that, that's okay, because I don't go at that pace anymore, really. And so I do what works for me. And I've come to understand and accept that I just need to give myself a little more recovery time than I might have previously. So I build that in rather than stressing about, oh, I just don't recover as fast. And no, I know that. I've accepted that and say, oh, okay, well, I need a little more recovery time than I used to. So I give myself that gift. And that's part of the the resilience thing, is honoring your body, honoring what it's telling you, so that you give it the best opportunity to do what it needs to do to maintain that level of resilience. So physically, that's kind of where we're at. The one concern I have with kids, for example, sitting in front of the computer screen so much, or in front of the TV or whatever, not being active, is they don't get as many opportunities to challenge their body and to get it doing things physically that will support them later on in life. Because there's no question that, and they've done some studies on this, that the more physically I guess I could use the word tough. The more physically capable and tough your body is, the easier it is to also recover from emotional and mental challenges. If you have trauma in your life in those arenas, if you have good physical bounce back, then it's going to help you and support you as you're recovering from any emotional onslaught or something that is heavy on your mind. So the physical plays an integral role. So we need to keep our kids active. We need to keep them out there and doing and moving. There is some truth to that. Use it or lose it kind of thing. So we don't want to lose our ability to keep our physical well-being well in hand. So now let's look at mental and emotional resilience. There's no question that when it comes to what goes on in life, there are many times when we get blindsided by something that happens, one of those out of the blue circumstances that can set us back and set us reeling, whether it's an adversity of some kind. Maybe there's a flood or a fire or the loss of a loved one, or a health challenge. Well, it messes with our heads. There's no question about that, because our equilibrium is just knocked out. And where maybe things were just going along like this, all of a sudden we're going like this, and up and down and up and down. And let's face it, we love being comfortable. So when we get knocked out of our comfort zone by something new, and it doesn't have to be a quotes bad new, it could be something extremely good, like a huge success that you weren't expecting. You know, maybe you work toward it and work toward it and to work toward it, and then as if it were a bolt out of the blue, things just happened overnight. And I'm fond of saying I'm in my 12th year of my 10-year plan for overnight success, right? And so you know, we're all working towards something, and we hope it happens, but sometimes we don't expect it when it actually does. So it could be something like winning the lottery would be a good example of that. People dream about, oh, if only I could win the lottery. And then when they do, they're going, oh, wow, that's just knocked me way out of my comfort zone, because I don't know what to do with this bank balance. For one thing, it's all in the black, it's not in the red. Now what am I going to do? So we get, so the the old saying that I heard from out of the past: people can take good news and they can take bad news, but they can't take surprises. So when we get surprised or shocked, either one, then it takes us some time to come back to a state of they call it homeostasis, where you're not totally stressed out by the whole thing. So and situations in life can cause us and trigger a great deal of stress inside us. All of our preconceived notions get pulled out in front of us, and we get to see if what we believed is really true or not. And I can remember getting fired from a job at a very young age. Oh, that just hurt so bad. And of course, my pride was seriously injured. And of course, I was not only I felt very ashamed, because, oh, that's a blot on your record, and so on. And of course, I was angry because I didn't like the job anyway, and I was planning to quit, and they fired me before I could quit. So that really bugged me. so so it took me a while. I think I cried all weekend and sobbed my heart out to various friends. Oh, it was so unfair, and I took it hard. Well, eventually I began to, when I got my perspective back and I looked at it through a different lens, I realized that probably at that point in time was the best thing that ever happened to me, because it forced me out of a comfort zone that was more like an anchor. I wasn't living the life that I really wanted. I wasn't going in the direction that was going to serve me the most. And so all of a sudden, I have a whole new deal in front of me with choices that I hadn't understood that I had. So from there, and just being able to switch from the perspective of, oh, woe is me, and I'm a terrible victim, and all of that kind of thing, to rethink and say, well, is that really true? Is it that bad? Well, it felt bad, but was there light at the end of this dark tunnel? And sure enough, there was, and a light that I hadn't anticipated. So that set me on a different career path, a different focus that I hadn't previously dreamt of, but turned out to serve me very, very well. So I have to say, when it comes to mental resilience and being able to switch from a perspective that isn't serving very well into a better serving one, it does help to have a Pollyanna mindset, where you look for the silver lining in every cloud. And so I'm grateful that I have that, because it has helped me build my own mental toughness, so that in the moment things can seem pretty bad, but then I usually quite quickly switch to, well, is this the worst that there is? Because if this is the worst, this isn't that bad. And I can always find other things that are far worse than that. And so then it doesn't assume the level of importance that it maybe did initially. So when it comes to building our mental resilience, it's good to look at what our perspective is and really question, well, is that the only perspective? Is it the worst thing on earth? Or would I hate something else even more than that? Well, at least that didn't happen to me. Well, at least that didn't happen to me. And you don't have to look very far at other people's lives to realize that, well, I'll take my own stuff, thank you very much. Whatever challenges and adversities I'm facing or obstacles, I'd rather have mine than somebody else's, because I'm not sure I could live with that, or that would be really hard, and so on. So we switch that perspective, and then that helps us in this journey to build that. Now, the emotional part of resilience can be, I guess I could say, I would say harder. I know it has been for me, partly because when I was growing up, I grew up in an era when feelings weren't talked about. You just sucked it up and soldiered on. If you were feeling badly about something, then you can't be around anybody because nobody wants to hear that. And so it made too many people too uncomfortable if you were miserable and sad. So you can just go away and be miserable and sad on your own. And even to be ecstatically happy in my household was not, well, no, don't get so exuberant about that. You know, it's not that great. And so there was this, you know, it's like I was needing to live in this not really really happy, not really really sad, just, I call it living in beige. And emotions are way more colorful than beige. So just through the example of people around me, for the most part, I learned to just stuff my emotions and stuff my emotions to the point where I never even really knew how to feel. And even went to some counseling sessions at one point where I said, look, I've talked my issues to death. I need to learn how to feel. And by golly, that did the trick. I opened up to emotions that the whole gamut, right from full-blown ecstasy on one hand to debilitating rage on the other end of the spectrum, that I never imagined I would ever feel, and everything in between. Well, when it comes to resilience, then, because if we allow ourselves to feel the depth and the breadth of all of these feelings, then sometimes it's harder to kind of rein it in, because when we're feeling what we're feeling so intently, it also feels as if it's going to last forever. And sometimes, depending on the adversity, the trauma, the tragedy, it does last for a long, long time. You know, part of that grieving process, it's up and down and all over the place. And so our feelings are a little more challenging to not only deal with, but then to shift. So one of the things that I found helped me was being very diligent about feeling whatever I was feeling and then releasing it. Because what I found for me is, if I didn't release it, if I didn't feel it and then release it, it would go right into my tissues in some place or other in my body. And then my body would say, woohoo, you got a problem here, you got a problem here. And then I'm looking to deal with some physical symptom when I knew at heart level that there wasn't physical at all. Oh, the physical symptom was definitely real, but the root of it was some emotion based on a certain situation that I hadn't faced. And so the more I do that, the more I not only feel the feelings, but even as important, or maybe even more important, is to release that feeling, to let it go. And sometimes you have to just let it go in little bits and little bits and little bits. Turn your attention to something else. Like, what else would I like to feel right now? That's why if you go, for example, to someone's celebration of life, often there is lots of laughter. Well, why? Because people are in pain, and laughter releases endorphins and helps relieve the pain. So it's very healing, not only emotionally and mentally, but physically. So anytime you can, even if you're in a deep state of grief over a horrific sadness that has occurred in your life, the more you can, even little by little, find something to smile about or chuckle about, or even better, have the best belly laugh, to just let go of that buildup. And yes, it can build up again, but then you let go of it again, and that's how we come back. That's how we come back into our own skin. And the interesting thing is, we come back tougher than before. We've because those muscles, whether they're emotional, mental, or physical, we keep strengthening them and strengthening them and strengthening them. Now, through this whole pandemic, I've started, and because we're seemingly on the other side of it, it's there's still some challenges throughout the world, but because of the vaccine, not as much. So people are starting to look around at their world and say, okay, now what? What's next here? What's going to happen after all of this? Well, different friends I've talked to are saying, I was a little reluctant to go too far. I went and did some errands, and then I just had this anxiety and I wanted to be home. Well, we've cocooned for a long time. So being with other people, especially in the company of people when we don't have any face coverings, and we're going, whoa, look there, I didn't remember that person's chin looked like that, or look at that smile, that's so wonderful, or if we're at a point where we can give each other a hug, we're not used to that. We haven't had that for a long time. So we've gone through a period of deprivation that is having an impact. So we don't want to ignore that. We don't want to take lightly the effect that has had on all of us, on our kids, on our grandkids, on each of us as individuals, as adults, that we've been bereft of what used to be. And so there's a grieving process as part of that. Well, in order for us to bounce back and find they're calling it the new normal. I'm not that thrilled with that term, but I don't know what else to call it. So getting to a way of life that's maybe somewhat different than we had before, but is equally as, well, hopefully even richer than what we had before, that we have more of what we want and desire in life and less of what wasn't serving us from before. So it is a great opportunity to let go of things that weren't working, to let go of things that just no longer serve. It's a choice, right? And so as we move forward, I want to encourage you, especially over the next week, to think about, how am I doing in relation to resilience? Do I need, I personally, I was sitting on my butt a lot during COVID, and it seemed as if I made my exercise was to go from my chair to the fridge and grab something to eat and then go back to it. Well, my body wasn't all that impressed with all of that, and so it showed. And so now I'm going, all right, enough of that nonsense. Let's do what we know what to do, how to do, and reverse that. So, but it's a little harder to do that. And so I created some bad habits for myself that I now need to uncreate. So that's how she rolls, right? And so I have great compassion for everybody, including myself, in this whole scenario. Well, we need that moving forward. We need to forgive ourselves for whatever went on that didn't serve us, and say, you know what, today's a new day. How can we build or rebuild that resilience so that we come stronger than we ever were before? So we're continuing that growth path, and can live really our own heaven on earth. That's always the goal for me, is how can I experience what I think of as heaven right here, right now on earth? Well, we're magnificent enough to be able to do that. And it's a choice. So that's what I'm choosing. And if you want to choose that, wow, welcome to the club, because I think it's a good club to be part of. So in the meantime, so think about your resilience and how you might exercise or re-exercise those muscles to increase that, so that you just get stronger and stronger and more into your own power, and love yourself for that, because wow, it's worth loving you for that. If you like Tea with Sue, I'm here every Friday live at 10 on the global, this is mountain time, on the Global Strong channel. I also copy this recording to my YouTube channel, my Sue Paulson YouTube channel, and you can find me and all these recordings on my app, The Magnificence Mentor. I'd love to connect with you in whatever way serves you most. Please subscribe to the channel, subscribe to, if you send me a like, if you like to make a comment or have a question, I'm happy to answer that. Until next week, my magnificent friends, take the best care of you. Love yourself through everything. You are worth that. You are magnificent. Bye for now.